and CEO of the Munich Security Conference, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have so many friends back in this room. I had these great talking points about defense innovation, but let me put them aside for a moment and just share a few things with you. We have tried really hard in the run-up to this conference to make sure that this is not a doom and gloom moment. We've tried, and the geopolitical situation, what we hear from Washington these days, what we're going to hear on this very stage tomorrow at 2:30, and what has been happening just 250 meters away from here earlier today, mean there is a real risk that this will be a doom and gloom conference. It could also be our hour. It could be Europe's hour. And so the title of this meeting, Double Down and Scale Up, it's not just true for defense innovation. It could be true for Europe too. We must double down and scale up freedom. We must double down and scale up liberty. We must double down and scale up Europe. And this is what we're going to try to do in this very room starting tomorrow. It will look even more gray-haired than it looks today. But I'm absolutely thrilled that this is now the 8th edition of a highly successful joint project with you, Sven, and the Cyber Innovation Hub of the German Armed Forces. We are honored that the Federal Minister of Defense, who is a good friend of the Munich Security Conference, he even sits on our advisory committee, and strictly speaking, as long as I wear this uniform, is even my boss, is gracing us with his presence tonight and will deliver the keynote speech. We are all thrilled, too, that we've got BCG back with us, showcasing their research on defense innovation in several dozen ministries around the world. And we're particularly thrilled that there are so many defense innovators, so many leaders of startups, so many investors here in this room. Somebody wrote into my speaking points, in short, today we have those that do things here. Tomorrow we have those that talk about it. Make the most of this evening. Make the most of the many other meetings that are ongoing later tonight and throughout the next days within the framework of the Munich Security Conference. Use every possibility to speak with each other. This is what Munich is about. The motto of this year's Innovation Night, Double Down and Scale Up, couldn't be more relevant. We have thought long and hard about, after 8th edition, is there still something new to be said about defense innovation? How do we avoid repeating the same conversation over and over again? And I think the program that both the Cyber Innovation Hub and the Munich Security Conference have put together for you tonight is fantastic. We will have 2 panels after the keynote speech. One on innovation and how to avoid risking using it as a buzzword, and one on resilience. The one topic, the one word that you will hear a lot about in J.D. Vance's speech tomorrow. It is about Europe getting its act together, about Europe becoming resilient, about Europe avoiding the mistakes of the past, and innovation, technological disruption, scaling up and doubling down may be a way back into the hearts of some of those that rightly criticize us. I've already asked you to make the most of this, but let me just 2 housekeeping remarks before I hand over to you, Sven. We have 2 wonderful, experienced moderators tonight, so you don't have to live with me for much longer. Jean Meserve, longtime anchor at CNN, now with CTV News, will join on stage later, and Karina Mösbauer, formerly at Bild and now the chief correspondent of The Pioneer. I've known Karina for a very long time. As a young boy, I was madly in love with her, and you will see why. You are in the best of hands, and with that, thank you so much for joining us yet again. Sven, over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a dramatic shift in global power is unfolding right before our eyes. Facing these dramatic changes, we must stay focused and must double down on our efforts to defend democracy, to defend peace, to thrive in unity with those who share our belief in the values of a free society. Let's be clear, action is required, bold action. And these efforts must start to strengthen the backbone of our defense, our troops. This includes more than ever delivering innovation at scale and with speed for the battles of today and tomorrow. Speed, scale, and innovation. These are the pillars of success in modern defense, and this is where the Bundeswehr Cyber Innovation Hub has stepped up. Over the years, we have proven our ability to deliver digital innovations that shape the future of defense. Innovations that meet the real needs of our soldiers in combat. To date, we have a portfolio of 180 projects, have already completed over 80 innovations, 40 are in service. 4 of our projects will be presented later tonight to give you first-hand impressions. Each of these solutions contributes to the defense of our soldiers and allies. These successes have been achieved despite extremely limited resources. Now imagine what could be possible with more resources. The question is not if we can do more, it is how much more we can achieve when empowered with the right resources. If we are serious about innovation at speed and scale, we cannot wait for perfect conditions. Bureaucratic roadblocks must not slow us down. This is why we need a Freedom Act for the Bundeswehr Cyber Innovation Hub. Our strength lies in our direct access to the Bundeswehr and our deep ties to the startup ecosystem. Startups are the cradle of disruptive innovation in defense tech, but their success, their survival, is depending on 2 critical factors: access to venture capital and streamlined procurement processes. Sadly, Cyber Innovation Hub does not have influence over procurement yet, as much as I wish we did. But where we can make a difference is in access to venture capital. Innovation cannot be held back by process delays. That is why outside of the Bundeswehr Cyber Innovation Hub, a private initiative has taken action. From within our ecosystem, individuals have stepped up forward to create something new: the Deep Tech Defense Innovation Fund. This fund will be a milestone not just for the Bundeswehr, but for the entire defense ecosystem. With a target of 300 million euros, this initiative aims to provide the critical financial lifeline that defense tech startups need. It will empower to speed up innovation, scale solutions, and bring transformative technologies to life. Technologies that will safeguard our future. This is a commitment to excellence, a commitment to speed, a commitment to fostering collaboration between defense, startups, and venture capital. This is how we speed up innovation. This is how we stay ahead in an increasingly competitive and uncertain world. Together, we build a future where technology and defense reinforces one another. And so, it's a great honor that I welcome our keynote speaker this evening. Please join me in welcoming to the stage our Federal Minister of Defense, Boris Pistorius.
Dear Dr. Franke, dear Mr. Weizenegger, generals and admirals, ministers, representatives of industry, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the warm welcome. I was looking forward to the evening, but I am also even more shocked and saddened by the latest news about the attack on innocent people here in Munich. My thoughts are with the victims, with their families, with the great citizens of Munich. Ladies and gentlemen, the week has been a week of disruption. After yesterday, it is now clear what many have speculated about for some time. The Trump administration wants a quick peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine. And they are calling on us Europeans to secure this peace as autonomously as possible. At the same time, US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has also made it clear yesterday and today in Brussels. I'm coming directly from there. I'm still thinking and reflecting of what we have discussed over there. And he made it clear, the US will not turn its back on us. As he said, we don't go anywhere. They will stay engaged in NATO and in Europe. That is both a commitment to peace on our continent and a wake-up call. We Europeans need to do more for our own security, and we need to do it much more quickly than in recent years. It is time for fewer promises and more action. We will engage in intense discussions with our American allies, but one thing must be clear from the very beginning. Ukraine and Europe must be part of any negotiations, ladies and gentlemen. No future peace deal can be achieved without the involvement of Ukraine, and any agreement that excludes Europe will not work either. Our goal is to keep supporting Ukraine until a just, comprehensive and lasting peace is reached, a peace that guarantees the interests of Ukraine and our own. But even once a peace agreement is actually reached, we will not be able to simply sit back and relax. Not only because we will need to secure the peace that could be negotiated in the next months, but also because Putin will continue to provoke the West. He will continue to attack us in a hybrid manner. He will continue to be a threat to our continent. It would be naive to believe that this threat will subside. We will have to invest even more strongly and more quickly in our defense capabilities. Peace in Europe can only be secured from a position of strength. And it's more than clear to me, staying ahead of the curve on the latest defense technologies plays a critical role in this context. It is crucial for our security. The war in Ukraine has clearly shown us how much new technologies are reshaping traditional warfare. While some of the most urgent weapons demands have of course been for tanks, artillery munitions and air defense systems, this conflict has also become one of the proving grounds for military innovations. History has taught us maintaining a technological edge is not just an advantage. It is a deciding factor between victory and defeat, between preserving freedom and losing lives. In Ukraine, advancements in digitalization and cyber warfare are measured in weeks and months, rather than years or decades as we know it. On the battlefield, system adaptations are implemented within hours or days instead of months or years. When technological superiority can make all the difference, our commitment to innovations is not just important, it is vital. This is why I set up the cyber and information domain as a force service, alongside the Army, the Air Force and the Navy. We know that we need to step up the digital transformation in the German armed forces as quickly as possible, especially in volatile times like this. We need more software to update systems easily and quickly and daily. To maintain our edge, we need to find ways to best adapt and modernize our armed forces as quickly as possible. This applies in particular to 4 technologies areas which, in my opinion, will shape the future of defense. First, artificial intelligence. AI is increasingly pervading all areas of our daily life, and defense is no exception. Integrating artificial intelligence comprehensively into the military domain has the potential to disrupt and revolutionize defense capabilities. It enhances mission success on the battlefield and ultimately saves lives. It is therefore essential for our armed forces to establish and maintain a competitive edge in this field. Second, quantum technology. Advancements in this area are equally expected to have profound implications, particularly concerning digitalization and information security. Another and third important category is drones. The war in Ukraine has been widely recognized as the world's first large-scale drone war, characterized by drone deployment of unprecedented scale. Experiences from other recent conflicts have also highlighted the role of drones in all domains, land, air and sea. They have become part and parcel of modern warfare by enabling an increase in command and control capabilities, in precise reconnaissance, in targeted attacks and more efficient logistics. Drones have become essential for strengthening our capabilities, and we must continuously advance our abilities both to use and to defend against them. And finally, fourth is cybersecurity. This is a key enabler for all our capabilities and must be considered and integrated at the very start of every project. All of these four technology areas are evolving rapidly, continuously creating new applications, which makes it even more important to recognize early on the challenges and opportunities they pose for the Bundeswehr. Innovation is not just about developing new technologies, of course. It is also about implementing them effectively. We must ensure that the latest developments and innovations are available to our armed forces quickly, immediately. That is why we maintain close dialogue with our allies and partners, sharing experiences and lessons learned as promptly as possible. International cooperation on the application of defense technologies can and will promote trust, resilience and sovereignty across Europe. There's one thing in particular we have learned about fostering innovation. Innovation cannot be commanded. Innovation needs the right conditions. From my perspective, these are a sense of urgency, freedom of action, as little bureaucracy as possible, who doesn't want that, and end-user involvement. But fostering innovations goes well beyond technology. It is about empowering people, about encouraging an entrepreneurial mindset that embraces calculated risk, and about rewarding those who drive progress. Promoting innovation requires cultural change, and that is where the Cyber Innovation Hub, which is hosting tonight's event, plays a vital role as a dedicated innovation element within the Bundeswehr. The hub is our interface with the startup ecosystem and the digital sector. It works in a user-centered manner with our servicemen and women and finds solutions to urgent challenges. 180 innovation projects have been started at the hub, 40 of which are actively used already in the armed forces. But of course, it requires more to boost and implement fresh ideas and technology. To this end, we establish a research and innovation ecosystem with various players such as the Agency for Innovation and Cybersecurity of the Bundeswehr, Center of Research on Digitalization and Technology at the universities of the Bundeswehr in Hamburg and München. We plan to expand this innovation ecosystem significantly. For example, at the former airbase in Erding, not far from here, we are planning a defense lab in cooperation with the state of Bavaria and the city of Erding. At this lab, we want to explore the potential of new technologies with the support of research centers, the defense industry, and startups in the region. Because we strongly believe that we need to cooperate closely and provide our own technical and scientific expertise if we want to be successful. That is also why we want to foster and enable cooperation between Bundeswehr and civilian universities. This is simply not the time for unnecessary reservations towards such promising cooperation projects. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry. Too many negotiations during the last year. It's not my fault. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a strong digital and technological backbone for the resilience of our continent. This is a crucial part of the urgent action we must take now. Innovative technologies help safeguard those who defend our nation and secure our freedom. At the same time, not only the Bundeswehr, but also society industry and the state must become much more aware of their responsibilities and roles when it comes to building resilience. Ultimately, deterrence and defense are collective responsibilities, extending beyond the armed forces to involve all sectors of society. Strengthening deterrence and defense requires a unified, integrated approach, especially when it comes to modern and hybrid warfare. These challenges are not abstract, they are real and they are ongoing, targeting our institutions, our society, our democratic processes, and every day. Russia does not distinguish between war and peace, between peaceful coexistence and military confrontation. Several arson attacks in European states can be tracked back to Russia and are linked to the war in Ukraine. German air traffic control systems came under attack in August. More and more drones are seen flying over military barracks or critical infrastructure facilities. And undersea cables in the Baltic Sea have been damaged intentionally. We also see hybrid threats in regard to the upcoming elections in Germany. For years, highly professional websites have been spreading false reports under the names of German media outlets. The SPD headquarters became the target of a cyber attack. And just recently, acts of sabotage in several German cities were committed that were falsely pinned on the Green Party. All these incidents illustrate the variety of Russia's hybrid toolbox. We know for sure that Russia and other hostile actors are trying to influence public opinion, doing it every day, manipulate information and undermine trust in our democratic systems. To me, it is clear, even after a potential peace in Ukraine, Russia will continue to do so and remain a major threat. This makes it all the more important for us to stay ahead of the curve, to innovate and to work together across all sectors. Since the outset of Russia's war of aggression, Ukraine has skillfully employed a whole-of-society approach to develop and adopt innovative technologies to defend itself. This means every stakeholder, from citizens to government institutions to private companies, is playing a crucial role in building a resilient defense ecosystem. The same needs to happen in Germany, but we all know we have quite a way ahead of us. It is no secret, Germany as a whole needs to become more tech-friendly and open-minded. We must understand hybrid threats without fearing the unknown, but preparing for it. We must embrace pioneering technologies while at the same time understanding their security implications. We need to be more receptive to technologies in all sectors of public life, while of course taking data security seriously and adhering to ethical principles. We must focus on our strengths. We must invest money wisely and harness the moment to put ourselves at the forefront of the technology sector. And I'm convinced a safer and more secure Europe hinges on a strong technological foundation. This technological foundation is multifaceted and dynamic. We need innovative frameworks that address both present and emerging threats in the physical, digital, and geopolitical spheres. By embracing new technologies, fostering a culture of innovation, and working closely with our allies and partners, we can ensure that we remain ready and resilient. At the same time, we need to be aware that defense in modern warfare is and will continue to be a shared responsibility, not only among NATO allies, but also between the state, society, and industry. Only together can we take decisive steps towards ensuring that Europe remains a beacon of stability, security, and progress in the digital age. Let's rise to the challenge together. Thank you.
Benedict, and thank you, Sven. I'm honored to join you and our distinguished panelists, speakers, and audience members tonight. Just a quick reminder, you will have the opportunity to submit audience questions. On your seats, you find papers with QR codes. And we already start with panel 1, resilience through digitalization. And for panel 1, I now welcome first Peter Kyle. He's Secretary of State at the Department of Science, Innovation, Technology in the United Kingdom. Evening. Hi. You can sit here if you want. Admiral Pierre Vendier. He is the Supreme Allied Commander Transformation at NATO. Good evening. Hello. Hi. Lieutenant General Michael Vetter. He is the Director General for Cyber and Innovation Technology at the Federal Ministry of Defense in Germany. Good evening. And last but not least, Steve Walker. He is Vice President and Chief Technology Officer at Lockheed Martin. Good evening. Gentlemen, I thought that we should start with news that has caused, you could say, some nervousness over the last couple of weeks. Deepseek. Admiral, is Deepseek AI Sputnik moment, as it has been named by experts?
I won't comment something which has a tremendous impact on stock exchange. So I won't make a buzz. Just say that we are in a race where you have a competition to deliver to commercial stakeholders the new AI tools. And so it's coming in your life. Today you have AI in your pockets. You can listen this conference and put the file on ChatGPT and have a sum up before leaving the conference. It's what we are bringing in today in our day-to-day work. And so AI is just accelerating their staff work. I could say that in ACT, since we use AI on our cloud, I think staff work has gained maybe 4 hours a day, more things, more documents, more sum-ups. We train ourselves for some conference when I meet people with AI, say what kind of questions you can ask, what is the red team, what the red party can say to you. And so this is now. So I would not say we are in a Sputnik moment because it's already there, it's arriving, and each day it improves. So it's a race.
General Vetter, what would you say? Is Deepseek a wake-up call?
Well, might be a wake-up call, but definitely not a Sputnik moment because it's not disruptive as such. It's another large language model. It looks like a powerful model. It seems to consume less computing power, but it's not a game changer as such. But it, as the Admiral said, it should keep us awake. It should keep us alert. And we Europeans have to get our act together also in the AI field to cope with those challenges.
Mr. Kyle, what would you say? Has the West overestimated its technological edge?
Well, I think the thing about Deepseek is it doesn't change the fundamentals. And if you're involved in governance, you're running countries, then the fundamentals are, first and foremost, you must invest and keep your own house in order. That means resilience across all networks. So, in Britain, for example, we're building up compute by 20x by 2030. We're investing in AI infrastructure. We've upgraded digital infrastructure to that of being critical national importance. So we must make sure that our own domestic infrastructure is resilient and is up to scratch. Secondly, you're absolutely right. We must, the countries with liberal democratic values must prevail in this race, and it is a race. So we need to be investing in critical technologies. Britain is the second largest market and the second largest number of innovators in quantum. We have the third largest market in AI. We must make sure that these technologies are nurtured and that we work with like-minded countries in order that we don't just stay ahead of the race, but we remain ahead of the race going forward, because it is essential. And it is essential to our security that we stay ahead of the race. And thirdly, we need to be working together with like-minded countries on these issues. We need to be coordinating tightly, directly on the emerging large language models that are coming from around the world outside of countries for which we have shared values. We have the Institute for Safety, for AI Safety in the UK. I'll be announcing over the course of this conference that we're changing the name of it to the AI Security Institute, and that we will be testing models not just from America and the EU countries, but we'll be testing worldwide models, and we'll be sharing the insight we gain from those models with our intelligence partners and our key allies. It's really important that when you have an asset like the Safety Institute in the UK, now the Security Institute in the UK, with its resources and its unique capabilities, that we make sure that we're very, very clear with populations and our allies that we're not there just to monitor free speech and do things associated more often with safety. We are doing things that are directly related to national security, and we're doing so in a way that benefits the global good as well as just the domestic good.
Mr. Walker, almost 100 years ago, in 1926, Alan Lockheed helped found the company that would eventually become Lockheed Martin. The big innovation then was airplanes. The United States made huge investments into this new technology. Lockheed and its peers were at the center of this intense effort. As you look at the race to develop useful AI in the defense sector today, are there parallels that we should look to, or how would you rate the level of investment and attention?
Yeah, I think there are some parallels. Lockheed Martin went on to develop space vehicles from there and stealth airplanes, and I really do believe we are in the third offset, as Bob Work used to say when he was DepSecDef. AI, robotics, autonomous systems, we're in it. And the investment needs to be there. I think largely it's the private sector right now that's investing, at least in the United States. Billions and billions of dollars are going into AI, and I think rightly so, as the minister before spoke about AI being probably the technology area we need to focus on right now. The Deepseek is a validation that China wants to be number one by 2030. And I think we have to take that seriously. We at Lockheed Martin want to be the best in applying AI to defense, and I think we are. 5 years ago, we stood up the Lockheed Martin AI Center that is focused on defense applications, and we recently had a really interesting example of that, being able to update an AI algorithm on an Aegis ship in the Red Sea in real time and provide a better signature for those for our warfighters on that ship to differentiate between false positives and real drones. And so proud of that. And so I think that opens up a whole new space of, yes, I agree with you, AI on the enterprise is amazing. And we have a large language model within Lockheed. 50,000 employees are using it to be more productive. But I'm really excited about AI in mission and what that's going to bring our warfighters.
We will hear about this year's study later, but as I found one finding particularly striking, I would like to include it in our debate now. The Boston Consulting Group asked experts, and almost half of them, 48%, say they recognize AI's potential. Yet only 7% of ministries of defense report that generative AI has been implemented in their organization's innovation functions. Admiral, are you implementing AI at NATO, and if so, where and to which extent?
So to be very practical, we already have AI models and LLMs on our secret cloud, on our secret network. We are on a non-classified network, which is so a cloud, and we have AI on-premise, and so we use it. We have a project which is to use raw data from unmanned ships to gather the information and to have, I would say, an enhanced picture with AI process to give warnings, and so using the unmanned to make something better. In fact, I would say very simply, you have two areas where AI changed the world of the military. The first one is staff process, where in the OODA loop, so which is observe, orient, decide, and act, you can put AI in each step. And the aim is to have less people going faster and to outpace the enemy. If you turn inside the OODA loop of the enemy, then you win, because you always take better decisions quicker. And so it's the challenge of all of Western staffs, to have this accelerated OODA loop to be able to deal with a huge amount of data. The number of data that's been produced since 2012 is 100 times bigger than whatever has been produced in the past. So nobody can deal with this amount of money, of data, sorry. And the other area where you see how AI is important is the unmanned. Imagine you have a ship with 20 drones which are making missions around, maybe 10 under surface and 10 above. You will not put seamen to handle a sort of FPV drone. You will not triple the number of seamen to just handle drone. So you will operate them as swarms, and you will give edge computing capabilities with AI, and then they will do a set of missions that have been pre-planned and that you will plan with your staff and say, use it as a flotilla. And so that kind of approach can be on the sea, on air, in land, where with the same amount of people, you will do maybe 10 times more mission and be able to plan it. So this is arriving now. We are testing it in NATO, both in staffs and in experimentations. And so it's now a question which is not innovation, it's an adoption question. Because the resistance is not in innovation, it's in adoption. Because it modifies the way the people work, the way they report to their boss, the incentive, the career incentives are not the same. And so when you're a lieutenant commander, you expect to command a ship and not a flotilla of drones. So there is quite a lot of pushback in the system, says, what is the proper mix? Do we really need that kind of drones that arrive? It will diminish the number of platforms, the big ones, the one you're happy to pilot, to handle, or to command. So I think all what we have in front of us, and so back to what Mr. Pistorius said, it's not an innovation question, it's an adoption question, and so it's about behavior.
General Feder, you are nodding. Where are you implementing AI, and are you, for example, also implementing it into your intelligence gathering and processing loop?
Let me start differently. On our journey towards the digital transformation of the Bundeswehr, we are following 3 lines of operation. Line number 1 is the digital transformation of our armed forces, so the sharp edge. The second line of operation is the digital transformation of all our business processes, so the huge administration of the Bundeswehr. And line of operation number 3 is to enhance the digital competencies of our organization, so establish a digital culture. And when it comes to using AI, employing AI, we are following exactly those 3 lines of operation. With regard to the military, I guess there is one thing we have to achieve, and AI can play an important role in this, and this is escalation dominance, comprising information dominance, decision dominance, and in the end, effects dominance. And here, in this end, we are currently in a tender to implement at least the first part, the information dominance and decision dominance bit, to be ready hopefully by next year, and then to get a first prototype ready for our Armored Brigade 45 in Lithuania, and then spread it across the land forces and again. So this information dominance, decision dominance, effects dominance, we have to employ AI along this road in order to optimize the kill chain and in order to be able to deter any aggressor because of this. When it comes to our business processes, we're just in a migration of our ERP system, which give us additional analytics capabilities, and which will then help us optimize our logistics chain, our maintenance repair and overhaul processes. So there also AI can give us more transparency and more basis for smart and informed decision making. And on the digital competences, AI will become an integral part in training. There's a bit of way to do, but I guess we're pretty well positioned with our 2 universities, and we're on the road. But I guess we have to follow these 3 lines of operation in order to successfully adopting AI within an organization. And I agree, it's about adopting, not so much about innovating.
Mr. Walker, we read recently that Israel has been using AI to help its intelligence analysts select targets based on factors that are hard for a human to discern on its own. What would you say? Can AI fully substitute human decisions in hostile environments?
We're not focused on that. We are focused on AI helping the human interpret what's going on, I would say. You know, today's AI systems don't really reason very well. They can't do contextual reasoning. Only humans can, at least at this point. Maybe someday. But I would want a human in the loop reasoning about, especially lethal targets. Yep.
There's another aspect that I want to point out or focus on with you guys. The innovation readiness gap, again, the study will show it later, has actually widened instead of shrinking. So we are not making progress. It's actually worse. We are regressing when it comes to being innovative. General Feder, we've been talking a lot about investments levels here in Germany. Rightly so, because of course you also need to increase the budget to finance the military. But should we also be looking more at the culture? Do we need a little bit more Palo Alto in Berlin, for example?
Well, I think apart from the budget, which Minister Pistorius pointed out quite rightly, you need to have a solid budget, you need to have a basis for solid planning and for ramp up also in the industrial part. But the culture bit is quite important. We are coming from a no mistake culture. Check, double check, check 3 times in order to avoid mistakes, and this kills every innovative system. Now, with the Cyber Innovation Hub, with our cyber agency and the other innovative elements, I guess we are currently pretty good in developing innovation and bringing innovation to the customer. Where we must become urgently better is crossing Death Valley, because the time it takes between the innovation is granted and the innovation is implemented in our system, and the system adopts to those innovative processes. So it is a bit about culture, but it's also definitely about money. And Sven announced this mechanism to bring investment and startups together to assist us on our journey. I think this is also an important point. So government money is good. If we get to find the private sector to invest also in defense, innovative organizations, it's even better. Thank you.
Admiral, you're also advocating for bolder decision making. So should we focus more on changing the mindset also in NATO?
So I'm not bringing cannabis in ACT, be sure of that. But I think we need to change the parameters. Perhaps you know the Einstein quote about madness. If you do the same process and you expect different results, then you are mad. So to bring the new, we need to change the process. What we are coming from, during 30 years, all our procurement was based on design, on requirements, military, then on specifications, then on contract. All the IT is not working like that. So it's a non-specification based process. You have the infrastructure and then you run it and you use it, and then it's a learning process. And so I would say we are in a huge disintermediation process where it goes directly from the coder to the warfighter. I give you an example. We've been asked by ACO, by Secure, to test acoustic sensing that was used in Ukraine. We bought 300 acoustic boxes, sent it in an airfield in Eastern Europe, and we tested it during 15 days. It was MP3 files sent on a cloud in Germany, and we run AI on it. And we tried to see what it was giving to the air picture for NATO. And so we realized that it was able to classify and to make some tracks. And the trick was, it was in an area where there were woods, and we had chainsaws everywhere. And so the chainsaw MP3 file looks like an Iranian drone. And so a matter of 2 days, we had coders that just put out that kind of decoying chainsaws. And that was it. And it was because it was in this part of the country and not in another. Perhaps it would be harvesters or whatever, tractors or whatever. And so we are in a moment where we need to have continuous improvements and not to have a contract to make 10 lines of codes. So I think we need to have coders closer to warfighters, because the question they will have to solve, perhaps they don't even know. It's warfighting that we say, okay, we failed today, we need to code something tomorrow. And so it's what has been experimented in Ukraine. And so it's what is coming now. So back to my point, it's not an innovation problem, it's an adoption problem, and our procurement process needs to be ready for this.
Mr. Walker, breakthrough innovations have historically come from disruptive outsiders, in part because huge players rarely want to advance technologies that could displace or cannibalize their own businesses. Makes sense. But today you are one of these big players. How do you make sure that you are set up to deliver on that field, encouraging disruptive solutions?
Yes, thank you. I just first agree with the Admiral, his comments about it's not an innovation problem. It's a adoption or capability problem that we have, I think, in the West, and getting across that valley of death we talked about. I think in terms of what we're doing at Lockheed Martin to be more disruptive, we have an amazing engineering staff and we have amazing technologies inside in areas you might anticipate. What we're trying to do, though, is in order to get to adoption and capability development faster, is reach out to the commercial sector, which is very vibrant in the United States and elsewhere. So we're partnering with companies like NVIDIA in the AI space. We're partnering with companies like Intel, Global Foundries to develop unique microelectronics that we need and do it quickly. We're also investing in how we do business, and so trying to reduce that design cycle time with digital tech and with things like Gen Design to turn the crank on design faster and get things out into the field. We also, I think, just to wrap it up, we've started experimenting with what I call rapid action teams within the company to really go out, see what's out there that we can pull off the shelf. And we've done that with a drone system here recently that is low cost. We've flown it, flown it several times and developed 3 different variants of it within 9 months. And so we're trying to beat down that speed and affordability issue that big companies and big governments can have, and show that we can be as disruptive as the next company. But I think partnering is a big deal, and partnering with commercial tech that already exists. We don't have to develop everything. To get it out there faster is important.
Mr. Kyle, we've heard often we already have the solutions and the innovation, but we have a problem implementing it, adapting it. What are you doing in your ministry to improve that?
Thanks very much. We have to understand the scale of innovation that is coming towards us. Artificial General Intelligence, AGI, 2 years ago, the assumption was it would be 10 years before we reached it. Then a year ago, it was about 5 years. But it is likely now to start reaching those sorts of limits, those sorts of achievements this year or next in its initial stages. We talk about having programmers and engineers as close to the front line as possible. We're already having AI programmers. So the latest model of OpenAI, O3, most of it was actually programmed by AI agents. And this is where we're going now. And when we get to the point where we have AGI, you're going to have models that are testing for weaknesses and then testing and retesting and adapting instantly without the need for human interaction. So they'll be exploring the weaknesses of our nations, our infrastructure, the hard infrastructure, as well as all of the technical infrastructure within different departments and, of course, across our military. And we have to understand this and make sure that as much as possible we can adopt and roll out. Now, what I've done in my ministry, and I came into office just 6 months ago, What we have done is consolidated all digital services, major digital services, from right across government, brought them into my department, which is the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, and created the digital centre of government. Why? Because we have to accept that when you have the kind of innovation coming from companies spending enormous amounts of resources, but they attract the world-class talent, huge talent, and they consolidate it. What we do in government is we try and get the same kind of services in every government department. But of course it doesn't add up to something which is transformative. So we've brought it together to create the powerful digital centre of government, and we are driving digital transformation across government from one central capacity. It means that we can attract resources into it. We can attract the skills, some global skills coming in to work in public service, and we can start to make the partnerships with different government departments to do it. Because let's not kid ourselves about the speed of innovation that's happening out there. And if we think that we can be 2 years behind it in order to remain resilient and safe, it's simply not going to happen. I also signed a memorandum of understanding today with Anthropic, one of the 5 leading AI labs. This is again to start forming the partnerships so that we can at least understand and start to harness the power that is out there and bring it into and then distribute it throughout government as quickly as possible. These are the sorts of things we have to get ready for now, because being resilient, understanding innovation, being as close to the cutting edge as we can, that is the first step towards being safe in the modern world. And unless people are safe, people are protected, and nation states are protected, then we can't harness that safety and put that safety to good use by exploring all the opportunities that this technology presents. Because if people don't feel safe, they won't be out there adopting, using, utilising it right through the economy, right through society, and through our defensive and intelligence communities as well. And that's what we've really got to get to.
As we will have some brilliant ideas on the stage later of startups, I also want to highlight another problem. 90% of ministries of defense indicate the desire to work with more non-traditional partners or startups. Yet only 20% of the survey respondents actually report that they are really partnering with non-traditional startups. Last year also there was a panelist on the stage, and he called defense the death valley of startups, meaning a lot of startups die when they enter the defense sector, and a lot of them avoid it completely out of this reason. He also talked about a Chinese wall between the defense sector and the deep tech innovation sector. General Vetter, would you agree that there still is this Chinese wall between the two sectors, and how can we tear this wall down?
Well, if it were there, it's diminished now. So I guess through the Cyber Innovation Hub, we've established quite a vital ecosystem between startups and the Bundeswehr. The main challenge is not a startup. The main challenge is not the innovation project. The main challenge is really to cross the valley of death and then to introduce such a capability in our system. But again, here we also made progress last year. We've managed to finance innovation in order to buy us time to bring it into the system in a proper way. To be fair, if you want to do business with the Bundeswehr, startups have to be able to work at scale. And this is for some startups a true challenge. And we must if you want to come with us, you have to be able to scale up and scale up quickly. And they are out there, but it is a challenge in our system. I guess in future, with what we call software-defined defense, we will tear down the remnants of those Chinese walls. Because when you look at our platforms currently, frigate Yankakis here has a lifetime of about 3 to 4 decades. The hardware on the ship has a lifetime between 2 and 10 years. Software might change every 4 weeks. So how can we become more agile to bring the capability developments over software faster on such a platform without those major repair and overhaul programs which cost an indecent amount of money, take an indecent amount of time, and normally end up not with the capability that you wish to have. We're making progress together with industry, and through software-defined defense, we must develop new ecosystems between the armed forces and industry, but also within industry. So the defense prime, like it or not, has to work with startups and has to open its APIs, has to work on defined architectures in order to make sure that the fast boats, the speed boats can deliver the software which is required to enhance the capability over the lifetime of a platform, be it a tanker, a fighter jet or a frigate.
Mr. Walker, what would you say? Is there a Chinese wall, or is defense the death valley for startups?
I think there has been a wall, and there is certainly a valley of death. But one of the things we're trying to do at Lockheed is kind of tear down that wall a little bit. We've stood up a Lockheed Martin Ventures Fund. It's one of the top 5 funds in Silicon Valley focused on defense. So it's a substantial amount of money. And we're investing in companies, and it's doing what you say, General. It's giving them some time and resources to scale up a bit before they actually go to the Pentagon, right? And so, but the other thing to think about is we at Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or somebody else could be that bridge into the Pentagon for companies like that. So that's worked as well. We have a complicated system in the U.S. too, if you want to work with defense. And so looking for those bridge partnerships, looking for investment where it makes sense is going to be important for small companies. Trying to do it on their own is not going to work, I don't believe. So.
Mr. Kai, what's your impression? Are big arms companies ready to give leeway also to ideas of smaller disruptive startups?
It's interesting you call me after, because I have been to Lockheed Martin in California and the innovation center there, and it's astonishing. Startups can be incredibly disruptive, but there is something that comes from also to balance that, the culture of innovation, the people who have been innovating in defense for such a long period of time. And just last year, just before Christmas, sat with your venture capital team as well to see some of the way that you're innovating in. And now that if that can work, as it shows the signs of, bringing in that, harnessing the power of small disruptive innovations and then bringing it in to the mainstream there is incredibly important. But we have to understand that you said earlier, should Berlin be a bit more like Silicon Valley? The whole of Europe needs to be more like Silicon Valley when it comes to innovation and deployment and the sheer speed with which. Another thing that you notice, whether you're in the civil service, when you're running government, or in the military, we're talking very hierarchical systems here. One of the things you notice when you spend time in some of these companies, even the large companies in Silicon Valley, is that if you find talent, then systems and organizations, they bend towards the talent, whatever the age is. And that's very different than you find in the culture of the military, and very different than you find in the culture of the civil service. And if there is talent, and there is young talent out there, too often it has to leave in order to express and fulfill their potential. But in a lot of the disruptive companies, if you have somebody with the capability to think differently, to solve problems, and to design and deploy products, then entire departments, entire sectors, entire organizations will bend towards that. And it doesn't necessarily throw them right up to the very top in a sort of structured way, but actually the power and influence that those individuals have is astonishing. And there's a lot of learning in order to harness the way, because you can't just say you want to get the outcome from Silicon Valley, but do it in the same way that delivers, that's delivered where we are today. We're really good. There's a lot of success in the military and intelligence communities across Europe and throughout NATO countries. But we have to understand that in a very rapidly changing world, the way we harness, find, source and nurture talent and innovation is very, very different now. And that's nothing to be feared, but it does mean we have to really think carefully about where we do it and how we nurture it into the future.
We're running out of time, but because I also promised audience questions, but last question goes to you, Admiral. Please, short answer. Is NATO also searching the private sector for relevant dual-use application, as dual-use seems to be underutilized?
So when you see the amount of money which is given to R&D, you have a factor which is 20 between the tech and the military. And so where is science, where is innovation, is mostly in the civilian sector. And what we see today is the comeback from dual use. In the 80s, all the defense companies were dual use. And during the 30 years, they concentrated only on military. And so what we are seeing is the return of dual use. The tech, AI has not been invented for the military. It has been invented for the civilian applications. And then you bring them in the military. Amazon is using AI to give you some packaging, and so robots, all that kind of thing that exists, and they need to be brought in the military. So back to the adoption problem. I think if I can give an advice, and so it's what I realized in ACT, you can't change things if you have not a strong leadership engagement. And to have a strong leadership engagement, you need to educate leaders. So I decided when I arrived in ACT to have a monthly training package for the top leaders. So each month they receive a mail with a bunch of conference papers where they have to read it to understand what they have to decide. And 3 times a year we have a 2-day session to be trained on the tech. Because how can you take good decision on tech if you don't even know it? Who is able to code with AI today in the room? You should do that. You can do that on your own computer. It's very easy. I've done it myself, and I'm not a geek. So you need to learn, and then you will be able to take good decisions with your people. Because you can't direct, you can't manage a big, say a big company or a big HQ if you don't even know what your smallest guy are doing about AI.
So we have several questions from the audience. I hope you forgive me that I have to pick one now. One question from, it's anonymous. What do you plan to do in order to give up startups more access to relevant military data, military feedback, and product feedback? Maybe General Vetter, do you want to answer?
Well, actually, bottom line, Cyber Innovation Hub works user-centric, and brings together startups together with, let's say, battalion-level troops who have an urgent requirement, and therefore they get to start with the relevant information they need so that the program manager of the innovation project can proceed. So I don't think that this might be a structural problem. Another story is when we are trying to scale up the innovation, then we're talking about classification issues, then we're talking about safety and security of supply chains, etc. And there the startup has to meet the necessary preconditions like any other one who wants to do business with the military and with the armed forces. But as such, I don't see a problem for the initial meetup between startup and the Bundeswehr.
Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for having time for us tonight. Thanks, bye. To improve your work, you first have to understand the obstacles standing in your way. All of us know this in our own lives, and it is particularly important in the high-stakes area of defense innovation. This is why the Boston Consulting Group and the Munich Security Conference survey officials within the defense sector to understand their current state of innovation readiness. This year's report focuses on overcoming the 6 unspoken barriers that impede defense innovation. To walk us through the key findings, I now welcome to the stage the Global Defense and Security Sector Leader at the Boston Consulting Group, Matthew Schlüter. Matthew, the stage is yours.
Great. Thank you, Karina. And good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be with you here this evening to get to share the key takeaways from this year's Defense Innovation Report and the 6 unspoken barriers to innovation. When we started this endeavor 4 years ago, the concept of innovation readiness was still relatively new in defense. And for those of you still unfamiliar with this concept, defense innovation readiness measures and quantifies how well ministries of defense are able to fulfill their innovation ambitions. The leading defense innovators regularly focus on the concept of innovation readiness, which includes activities such as the ecosystems they build, the portfolios they manage, the talent, the processes they employ, and the governance that they follow. And most importantly, as was alluded to on the prior panel, the top innovators realize it takes much more than just the right ambition and funding to innovate successfully. And that brings us to the first takeaway from this year's report. In this year's research, we have found that while defense funding is increasing, the innovation readiness gap among ministries of defense continues to widen, with a 5% decline since we first started measuring this in 2022. So what does this mean for you? Despite increasingly more funding, there continues to be a significant, growing, and potentially dangerous disconnect between MOD's aspirations and the expectations for what they have that innovation will deliver, and their actual ability to actually generate results and field capabilities. Now, people frequently cite many common justifications for this persistent gap. What we've heard is that we have a broken acquisition process, or we are too risk averse, or we have a lack of partnerships. However, in this year's research, many of the experts we spoke with consistently want us to talk about a different set of innovation challenges, the challenges that are underappreciated or that they wish more ministries were talking about. And this takes me to the second takeaway, which is that in this year's report, we outline the 6 unspoken barriers to innovation. I will briefly comment on each one of them. So the first barrier, ministries of defense are missing out on affordability. This is grounded in a common misperception that innovation must and will only increase costs. In fact, the opposite is true. The top innovators use innovation to drive affordability and efficiency, not just increase costs. Second barrier, ministries of defense are over-investing in platforms. This barrier contends that we are overly biased towards exquisite platforms and need to more quickly accept and welcome the affordable mass segment consisting of more scalable, interconnected, and affordable systems. Third, ministries of defense are underutilizing AI potential outside of operations. I think it's quite positive to hear some of the comments we heard on the last panel about business operations. But what this gets to is that a key finding from this barrier is that ministries need to balance their AI investments, to not only invest in the pointy end of the spear, but much more in the business functions like HR, finance, procurement. And if you do so, estimates state that the countries represented in this room can realize greater than a $90 billion ROI per year. That's a lot of money to fund other things like quantum and hypersonics, edge computing, all the other things that were discussed. Fourth, ministries of defense are overlooking industrial-based shifts. Now, Karina started to touch on this one with one of the comments that she made about startups. I'll offer to you in a moment, we're going to have some startups here that are really compelling, and several of them have made it. But again, just to reiterate the data, 90% of you say you want to work with startups, but again, only 20% of you are. There's work to do to close that gap. Fifth, ministries of defense are failing to adopt the lessons from current conflicts. There are a lot of lessons that we're going to talk about over the next couple days, particularly from Ukraine, from the Middle East. But as you read the paper, you'll see the majority of these lessons still aren't actually being implemented outside of the regions where the conflict is happening. And sixth, ministries of defense misunderstand many of the nuances of the common barriers. So as I started to say, it's very easy to highlight some challenges, things like acquisition or partnerships. But in practice, as you'll see in the report, there's much more nuance of these that we can actually learn from and apply. So in conclusion, let me leave you the 2 points. First, while we believe that all 6 of these barriers are really compelling, we hope that you will also see them as an opportunity and a call to action. With the understanding now gained, these insights provide your ministries information to make a stepwise improvement in your innovation capabilities in areas that were previously underappreciated. And lastly, as innovation readiness is a critical topic for everyone in this room, we look forward to continuing this conversation with you over the next several days. I wish you a wonderful and very productive conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. And hi to everybody. It's great to be back in Munich. Great to be back at the Munich Security Conference. Great to be back at Innovation Night. So we've been talking a lot about innovation. Now we're going to show you some innovation. Mines have been a persistent and problematic aspect of warfare and warfare's aftermath. We're going to look now at a new technology to detect them. Let me introduce Alexander Petri, who is Innovation Manager of the Cyber Innovation Hub at Germany's Federal Ministry of Defense, and Julian Bothomps, Chief Executive Officer and founder of ASDRO.
Im Innovationsvorhaben Interceptor Drohnenabwehr testen wir mehrere Dinge. Der wichtigste Test ist der Impact der Interceptor-Drohne in die Zieldrohne.
Als Cyber Innovation Hub der Bundeswehr bringen wir Startups auf den Übungsplatz. Hier können wir mit dem Startup Ecosystem die Probleme der Soldatinnen und Soldaten dort lösen, wo sie auftreten.
A tiny little misunderstanding. I'm the Innovation Manager of the Cyber Innovation Hub, Rosa Simon.
And I'm Batu Anyumusa from Titan Technologies. I'm the CTO and co-founder.
I know.
So. From Germany's testing grounds to Ukraine's frontline realities, we turned ideas into battlefield-ready solutions. A year ago, we were standing here, exactly here, together. We had an idea, a bold ambition. And today, Titan's counter-drone system is already in the hands of those who need it most. Not a concept, not a prototype, a proven solution in the harshest conditions imaginable. Driven by Ukraine's experience and the urgent need for cost-effective defense, the question is no longer if we face these threats, but how fast. And we respond to this with collaboration. The Cyber Innovation Hub and Titan developed and delivered a combat-ready interceptor drone in less than a year. This kind of progress happens when vision meets acceleration. Our interceptor, it detects, chases, and eliminates drones. Speed, adaptability, seamless integration, we delivered it all. From Bundeswehr tests to active deployment, our verdict is clear. This is combat-ready tech for our soldier. So Titan took our mission to one of the most volatile regions in the world, Ukraine. And to share with you how we made this happen, let me please hand over to co-founder and CTO, Batu.
Thank you very much. Well, our collaboration with the Cyber Innovation Hub showed how the right ecosystem and partners can turn ideas into operational capabilities in record time. And we heard about it. The modern warfare has changed. And unfortunately, the traditional development cycles are too slow. And exactly that's why, at Titan, we are committed to work with end users from day one. And this isn't just an advantage in modern warfare, this is actually essential. In Ukraine, we have seen it as well. Speed, adaptability, and the end-user feedback have set a new standard. We have provided interceptors that are now being tested on the front lines, and we are continuously integrating the feedback to refine our technology. On the other hand, to enable large-scale deployment, we are working with local partners to tackle one of the biggest challenges in modern defense, the counter-drone problem. And we are proud to stand with Ukraine with the technology that truly makes a difference. Resilience in defense is extremely important, and it's about mastering the scalability, the ability to scale cost-effective and autonomous systems. That's why we designed for mass deployment and mass production, because when it matters, volume is key. But as we are developing those autonomous systems, we of course have a responsibility. We need to make those systems safe, and we need to make them effective. So we ensure that our systems remain precise, predictable, and we keep the operators in control of critical decision-making. Reflecting on the past year, we have made significant progress. Our team has grown fivefold, and we have successfully conducted testing multiple times in Ukraine and in Germany. However, the threats of tomorrow will be smarter, faster, and more scalable. To stay ahead,
we need an autonomous dome capable of defending against all types of threats. Our mission remains clear: to protect people and critical infrastructure. That's why we continue to develop core technologies and new methods to stay ahead and be ready for whatever comes next. But we can't do it alone. We need stronger collaborations like the one we had with Cyber Innovation Hub, and we need more real-world testing, and it has to be a standard, so it cannot be an exception. We must move faster, and we need to take action now. Thank you very much.
Indeed, it was quite the journey. Thank you, Bati, for sharing. Like this, we are accelerating defense tech innovation in Germany, reinforcing the European defense industry. Ladies and gentlemen, what you witness here tonight is a testament to the efficacy of collaborative innovation. And it is more than innovation. It's resilience.
This is the stuff we want to see and that the future is made of. Our next startup, Sonic AI, is a groundbreaking project developed through the collaboration of the Bundeswehr Cyber Innovation Hub and Project Q, based in Munich and only founded last year. They focus on leveraging advanced technologies to address pressing challenges in areas like reconnaissance and threat detection. Let's hear more about it. Please welcome to the stage Holger Gierisch, Innovation Manager at Cyber Innovation Hub, and Leonard Wessendorf. He is the CEO and co-founder of Project Q.
Sonic AI wird mit seinen Fähigkeiten einen Schlüsselbeitrag leisten zur Aufklärung von Drohnen in der Zukunft.
Das System ist im Ziel ausgestattet mit 2 akustischen Sensoren, die in der Lage sind, eine Drohne aufzuklären und dann noch viel wichtiger, eine Drohne auch zu peilen, so dass wir die Bundeswehr und die Truppe in die Lage versetzen, die Drohne effektiv zu bekämpfen.
It has been more than 1,000 days. We've seen the pictures from Ukraine. Cities plunged into darkness. First responders overwhelmed after mass air attacks. Soldiers chased to their death by unmanned threats. With no early warning, they had no chance to react. How do we detect these dangers? Advanced radar is no longer enough. Even our multi-million-dollar system has a detection range of not even a few dozen kilometers. And we don't have enough of them. New radio frequency finders, to be deployed in mass, will be rendered ineffective with the arrival of autonomous drones. Our current ways of tracking threats can leave us blind. And that is why we need new unconventional ways of thinking detection. So let me ask you, how are area threats detected before radar? By soldiers' expertise and their ears. Combining modern sensors with powerful artificial intelligence, acoustics are lining up to become a viable alternative again. Tonight and in the months to come, we'll demonstrate to you how sonic detection can revolutionize large-scale surveillance. We achieve this by leveraging expertise. Innovators from the German startup ecosystem, together with experienced officers of the Bundeswehr, all independently identifying the value of acoustic detection. This project perfectly demonstrates Cyber Innovation Hub's leading role in co-creating real impact on the battlefield. Let's welcome Leonard, co-founder and CEO of Project Q, and listen for ourselves.
Thank you, Olga. In peak times, over 100 one-way drones circle the skies over Ukraine, designed to terrorize civilians and cause significant destruction. These drones pose a unique challenge. They are stealthy. Low radar and thermal signatures make them really hard to detect. But there's a silver lining. They have a distinctive acoustic signature, and that's where opportunity meets innovation. And I'm very grateful that the Admiral mentioned the project earlier and the capabilities we have seen in Ukraine, because at Q we asked ourselves, how can we use acoustic sensing and take it one step further and help our troops protecting them in close combat? Thanks to our partnership with Cyber Innovation Hub and the Air Force, we're able to use the Bundeswehr training grounds as our testing site to really do embedded development. Over the coming months, we're developing a robust, man-portable solution that detects both drones and incoming fire, protecting our troops in close combat scenarios. Using the distinctive acoustic signature, we're able to locate and classify threats. Our system does not work in isolation. Data is aggregated near real time and can be pushed into existing battle management systems, allowing, for instance, situational awareness of all incoming threats, from sound to screen. As Holger mentioned, expensive sensors take years to field. Complex platforms need training. As the number of unmanned systems increases, our detection capabilities risk being overwhelmed by the sheer amount of contacts. We need the ability to cheaply produce and field sensors at scale. Commercial off-the-shelf microphones, enhanced by AI, low cost, rapidly deployable, easily operated, transforming sound into actionable intelligence. Our vision extends beyond the acoustic detection of threats. It's not an isolated solution. We are building an open source tooling layer for multi-sensor fusion. Modular for the use in various threat scenarios, enabling the Bundeswehr and allies to build their own counter-UAS system. We are excited to contribute to the future of force and infrastructure protection with Sonic AI. We invite you to share your operational challenges with us and explore how we can solve them together. Together, we're shaping technology, not just for defense, but for public safety.
Thank you, Leo. We have set out to prove acoustic detection. But as you heard, we will be going one step further. Exploring the full spectrum of possibilities, smart acoustics will amplify our awareness. Protecting the base down to the platoon, saving service members and citizens, preserving infrastructure and morale, ultimately reinforcing resilience.
So I was having a little fun with you earlier. I talked about mines, they talked about drones. Now we're going to talk about mines. So let me bring to the stage now Alexandra Petri, Innovation Manager at the Cyber Innovation Hub at Germany's Federal Ministry of Defense, and Julien Boton, Chief Executive Officer and founder of ASDRO.
Der massive Einsatz von Landminen ist auch etwas, was uns im Kontext LVBV erreichen kann. Es gibt eine sogenannte Minensuchnadel, wo der Soldat Zentimeter für Zentimeter dieses Gebiet abtasten muss. This is Sergeant Moira. He is an airborne engineer within the German Armed Forces. He stands for safety, the safety for his comrades. Sergeant Moira, an ordnance reconnaissance specialist, is facing an important task. It is one of the most dangerous of his career. Like him, many soldiers face these dangers every day. He must scout an area suspected of being a minefield, a place full of invisible threats, anti-vehicle mines, anti-personnel mines, deadly, even when a war has long been over. They are possibly buried deep, barely visible to the eye. Every minefield carries not only danger below, but also above. Enemy forces could be observing the area, ready to react to any movement. Moira knows he must act quickly and precisely. But time is not on his side. This is all he has. A simple needle to probe the ground. Centimeter for deadly threats. Every step he takes could be his last. How would you feel? But outdated and primitive was yesterday. Today we have a solution, Minesweeper. Using a drone, a magnetometer and cutting-edge software, the invisible becomes visible. This is innovation in action. What once took hours or even days can now be completed in minutes, without risking Corporal Moira's life or the life of his comrades. No one knows more about this technology better than the German startup Astro. Someone who has worked closely on this innovation and knows its capabilities is Julian. Please welcome him and let's hear more about Minesweeper.
Thank you, Alexander. I'm very happy to be on stage with you, and I've brought Minesweeper with me. The whole project took only 6 months to generate groundbreaking results. Sergeant Morris' task to clear the minefield would take him hours, and we wanted to challenge that. In our mission to save not only Sergeant Morris, but the whole battalion, we let our autonomous drone system scan the target area from a safe distance. Imagine you're able to see threats in the subsurface like you would see in an X-ray. This is what Astro's technology is able to do. After the drone completes its mission, our software is able to generate an image of the subsurface and precisely calculate the position of all mines. Our data is so precise that it can calculate the distances between the mines in centimeter accuracy. Finally, precise GPS coordinates ensure that the data is usable for Sergeant Moira and can be provided into the battle management system and the whole Bundeswehr. With our new technology, the task is not done in hours, but in minutes.
Imagine a future where no soldier has to walk through a minefield blindly. Amazing, right? Our mission is clear. Safety for our soldiers through innovative technology. Minesweeper shows this is possible. We have taken the first step toward making this vision a reality. Together we can achieve even more.
We are now going to hear about robotic cockroaches. Yes, you've heard correctly. To be honest, I couldn't decide if I should make a reference to a science fiction movie or a horror show. But this isn't the stuff of movies. It's actually real research and development being done by Swarm Biotactics based here in Germany. They are redefining the boundaries of robotics by augmenting insects with technology. Let's hear more about it. Please welcome to the stage Jörg Lamprecht. He is the Executive Chairman of Swarm Biotactics.
Hostage taking FC8. Deploy Swarm Unit.
Mission Control, this is Mobile Swarm Unit. Re-arrived on site. Initiating Swarm deployment. Swarm intelligence activated. Recon in progress. Activating AI room scanning protocol. Recon completed. Starting rescue operation. Target location confirmed. Entry team on standby. Hostages secured. Ensure secure exfil. Mission accomplished. We're coming home, guys.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Swarm, and welcome to the first really biobot. By the way, my wife don't allow me to take home any work from that. So we are really combining nature elements, insects, with microchips and electronics and neuroscience. So what we're doing, we're taking real insects, cockroaches in this case, there are hundreds of them in the market, and we know they have clear advantages over any mechanical robots. They go faster, they have no energy needs, we can produce them at scale, and they're super, super stealth. So nobody detects them, there's no sensor in the world that detects them, and we enrich them with neuroscience, which has been in the market for quite a while, and some micro electronics to make them remote controllable. So the goal is to make them remote controllable. And of course, ultimately, to bring a whole new weapon category to the table. So each biobot, we call them biobots, so insect plus electronic is biobot, can be customized to the mission. So some of them carry cameras, some of them carry microphones, other sensors like motion detection, and of course they could also carry effectors. Together, they form a powerful swarm unit. So customized to the mission, whatever is needed, and packaged together is the swarm unit. The technical data, as you call it, the speed is 5 kilometers per hour, but it goes on for hours. So we don't need energy. And again, we can work in swarms. We can navigate any terrain, like pipes and hills and uphill and downhill and walls. And we have a payload up to 20 grams, which is really, really enough, and especially if you group them in swarms together. The backpack is where the intelligence is. So we put the micro backpack here on the top and back, which carries not only the electronics to remote control the insect, but also if you needed to autonomously pre-configure a mission file. Something like, hey, go and find a jammer or a radar unit and go and crawl towards that unit. So without any RC connection. Spooky, right? Just imagine you have like hundreds of thousands of them, crawling towards your building and all blinking red and little noise and things. How do you defend that? Just completely new weapon. How do you cope with that? Brutally new force. So the command control center allows you to control multiple swarm units in different places of the battlefield. So we support a wide mission spectrum like reconnaissance and search and rescue or seek and destroy, but also they are completely grouped and in the different missions centrally controlled. You don't need to control each individual, you control them by the mission itself. Yeah, so while we are looking forward for our first project at Cyber Innovation Hub this year, where we deploy the first swarm units in the field, we are also working in the R&D on our next project, which is the same neuroscience project. We're talking about pigeons, and which will be certainly disrupting the drone industry currently works, because you have a non-detectable, absolutely off-the-shelf flying UAV, which is undetectable and very reliable. And again, at scale, super cheap and super stealth. And of course, we must not forget our friends from the Navy. Well, that's a little bit more far out. Yeah. So, thank you very much. Great having you here. Thanks for the invitation. And the future is now and the future is unmanned. Thank you very much.
Never did I see the moment where the image of the cockroach would be rehabilitated, but that's great. Thank you. So competition is a key factor in innovation. That's been discussed a little bit tonight, but so is cooperation, so is collaboration. It can spread costs and reduce costs. It can reduce risk. It can increase resiliency. Here tonight to talk about the promise and the possibilities as well as the problems, we have a distinguished panel. Let me introduce them one by one. First, General Carsten Breuer, Chief of Defense of the German Armed Forces. Please join me. Also with us, General Eirik Johan Kristoffersen, Chief of Defense of the Norwegian Armed Forces. We also have with us Admiral Renato Rodrigues de Aguilar de Fredi. My Portuguese is non-existent. He's so nice. He keeps telling me I'm doing it right. He is the Chief of the Joint Staff of the Brazilian Armed Forces. And finally with us, Admiral Stuart Munch, Commander of U.S. Naval Forces Europe, Africa, and Allied Joint Force Command in Naples. Thanks so much, all of you, for joining us. So we heard from Matthew just a moment ago about the Boston Consulting Group's study, which showed that the innovation gap is growing. Very quick, round-robin question for all of you. Is this true for you? Are you satisfied with the pace of innovation or not? Why don't we start here? Quick round-robin.
Well, it's true, and but it's also not true, or it will not be true in the near future, I would guess, because we have seen what is going on. We have seen what's happening, and since we have put this into it, I think we will solve this. So we have heard what it's all about, and I think nowadays we will have also the money to do so.
Optimist?
So I read the report from BCG on this innovation gap, and I think one of the main reasons is that we are being more honest. So we're actually answering, and we're realizing that this gap has always been wide, but now we're reporting more honestly. And second, innovation is going too fast, too slow, I mean, in our armed forces.
And if you're more honest, maybe you can get more money. That's my guess. But Admiral, what about in Brazil?
Well, I given a non-NATO perspective, and for us, this gap is huge and growing like million light years. It's keep growing because of difference of budget, investment, and all the environment that surrounds it.
Admiral?
Yeah, I think the pace of innovation is across the scale. There are things that are going very well, things that could use some more speed.
A lot of work.
For what I am doing, I'm quite happy with what the result has been.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the positive, because Benedict started this evening out by saying he didn't want this to be all doom and gloom. He wanted there to be some positives. So I'd like each of you, if you would, to give me an example of innovation done right, and even better if it involves partnerships. Germany, logistics hub, innovations there?
Well, I think there are innovations, but I would like to take it between the two of us and probably saving Eric for answering the next question. But I think one of those innovation in design and innovation in collaboration is a submarine we are doing together. And it's not any longer interoperability, it's about interchangeability. And the two of us were there, we discussed it very, very deep, and we came to the point that we say, okay, yeah, this is the future, this is what we have to do, this is where we can scale up with 2 nations coming together, or even with 3 or more nations coming together. So also on this positive side.
Do you want to give a different example? Or?
No, I think one example is after Nord Stream 2, when the pipeline exploded, we had to search 9,000 kilometers of pipelines in the Norwegian seabed. And the way the Navy, the intelligence service, the civil authorities, and industry came together to search those pipelines was done in a very innovative way. And it just shows the example that we see it in Ukraine when things happen and you really need to innovate, you start innovating. And we have a lot of examples from Afghanistan in the period we were there, where we innovated very fast. But then we come back to Norway, and then we start the whole procurement process, and we end up looking at platforms instead of effects.
Admiral, an example?
Well, I could give you an example, very basic one. Sometimes innovation is not about new technology, but how you use technology in a different way to solve a problem. For example, in the Amazon, we have a huge command and control problem. So you have spread all over the Amazon different institutions, and the Army devised a way that since you don't have roads to build the connections, so they decided to use to lay cables on the riverbeds, so in order to connect different unities. And then the Ministry of Communications thought this was a wonderful idea. Then they brought to them this innovation. And now they have 28 different branches of these connections all over the Amazon region. That's one example. Very basic, but another way to look at it.
Admiral.
As I said, very happy with the innovation and collaboration that we've done. Our main project is with Ukraine and some other stakeholders, enabling them to fight effectively in the war at sea. And the end result is that 26 Russian ships have been destroyed today. And I think that is remarkable collaboration and innovation in a result.
Speaking of Ukraine, Ukraine has been an incredible example of not only a government investing in innovation, but a whole society investing in innovation. In any of your countries, are you seeing anything vaguely comparable to that? You're smiling, so I toss it to you first.
No, we are learning a lot from Ukraine, and I agree with Stu that there's a lot of innovation going on in our cooperation with Ukraine, which make them more effective, and then we take those lessons learned back home. But we have the same systems in place in Norway, but the need for speeding up is more like a culture when it comes to our own defense. When it comes to Ukraine, we see the need immediately, and we start innovating very fast. So we have the system in place where we work with research institutes, with the end user, the warfighter, and with the companies. But one of the problems we are facing is that in Ukraine, you deliver equipment, it's being used, and you start reproducing it and improving it. When you come back to Norway, we invest in, let's say, I need 1,000 drones a year to train and experiment with, but then in wartime I need 1,000 drones a day. In Ukraine you can do this because the drones are being used all the time. Then we come back to our procurement process where we buy these drones, and then it takes years before we buy the next one. So we need to work in a different way with industry. That was my point.
Yeah, what pretty much underlines this. So it's we all see, if it comes to war times, if we look into Ukraine, we see that the innovation cycle is, I would say, between 15 and 30 days when you're talking about drones. Why can't we get this into our system as well? And what do we have to do to get it in our system as well? I think procurement has to be different, but also our mindset has to be different on this. And taking the example of drones, so putting drones into on our shelves, into our storages, is it the way of doing warfare in the future? And then taking them out in a far future, and then out of a sudden realizing that they're not any longer up to date, even if you have software defined and so on. So we have to have a kind of drones subscription to get it into the right direction, and to take this and bring it to different ways of procurement.
Admiral, I'm going to ask you about this as an American who lives in Washington, D.C. I see that frequently government is not always working in a unified way towards the same goal. What's your experience been when it comes to innovation? Are you having a productive exchange within government with other departments beyond DoD?
Yeah, it depends on the incentive structure of the risk and how it's balanced. So,
and who has to take responsibility for it, in other words.
Yeah, a lot of things we do, they're worried about technical risk, financial risk, bureaucratic risk. They're not worried about the risk of time in delivering something when it's operationally needed. And this is what's so different with Ukraine, is it's existential that they get it on time. And that, in turn, is driving innovation in the U.S. to feed that for Ukraine.
Admiral Frady, I understand that Brazil is partnering with France on a submarine technology. Are you partnering with any of the nations on this stage in any regard?
Well, we have a long-standing partnership with the U.S. in hemispherical defense and many other activities. For example, I was discussing with Admiral what we do together in Africa and in Gulf of Guinea. So there's a lot of cooperation together. And for example, with Germany, we started building new frigates, and we started collaboration with the German Navy to improve training and exchange of knowledge. It's always a huge a huge step forward to build this kind of cooperations because of the huge gap. Well, when you have a difference of capabilities, for example, from the NATO armies, navies, and air forces with other countries, and sometimes you feel the need to cooperate with other nations. For example, the Red Sea, the situation in the Red Sea showed us that conflict is not restricted, can spread very quickly. And when conflict spreads, you need partners close to work with you. And if you don't have the same capabilities, it's very difficult to work together.
If I just may follow up on that, what we do is he provides a liaison officer into my American headquarters in Naples, Italy, to foster that collaboration and innovation. That works very well.
So I think it's also a very important point that we need to be interchangeable and interoperable across NATO and with partners. So NATO and partners is 67 countries now. And we need to focus on standards and make sure that we can work together. And Ukraine is actually suffering from our lack of standardization for many, many years. That's why they have to put all these things together, which has not been standardized. So we have to do a job with standardizing, but also innovating, and making sure that we innovate and scale up in a way that we can also standardize this.
So, General Brewer, I'm curious. We have the Admiral here from Brazil, a BRICS country. The rest of you are NATO. Is there a reluctance, especially when we're talking about these cutting-edge technologies like AI and quantum, to partner with a country like Brazil?
Well, I think there's no reluctance. If you look
no reluctance?
No reluctance, because it's different. We are doing cooperations differently than we did it over the last 30 plus years. In the past, we have done cooperation because of cooperation. So we have done it, and we have said it's political aim behind this. Nowadays, it's different. It matters. And what we have to do, we have to see each of us within a cooperation has to see his advantage or her advantage. To put this together, to get on the next level of doing defense and deterrence. And when it comes to cooperation here, you have to very much to look into it, to have to differentiate what can we do in cooperation and what can't we do. So no reluctance in this.
Is there a countervailing pressure, meaning that some countries don't want to share what they're doing? They have proprietary technology, and maybe they don't want to share it with an ally or a BRICS country. A reality? Admiral, do you want to tackle that?
Yeah, that's pretty common. You spend a lot of money developing these technologies, and you want to make sure that when you have a partnership, there's a comparative advantage that you each are gaining from by working together.
Norway is an Arctic country. Your innovation, I suspect, has a lot to do with operating in a very cold environment. Are some of the innovations that you're making even applicable to other countries in other climates?
So the easy answer is that everything that works in the Arctic works also everywhere else. It's not the opposite. So you can innovate in tropic areas, and it doesn't work in the Arctic. But of course, you have to adapt to the environment. But if you test it, if you test equipment and you test your unmanned systems in the high north, it's definitely going to work almost everywhere. With all the challenges you have with climate, terrain, just communication so far north gives you new challenges.
So in a way, it's a great test bed.
It's a great test bed. It's probably the best test bed for military equipment in the world.
And this is true, and this is the reason why we are testing there and why we are doing the cooperation. It's not that much about having trained and equipped there and then take it over to Germany and bring it there into work. It's much more for where will you be deployed and bring it in there. And therefore, Arctic is great.
I've read that NATO has to innovate itself, that some of the issues have already come up here, culture, talent, but especially procurement. Is there a way for NATO, or perhaps European and US with a country like Brazil, to work together to leverage your collective power on procurement to make it run more smoothly? Silence hits the room.
The answer is, again, it's obvious. It's, of course, there is. And what we are doing
Then
now,
why doesn't it happen?
It happens more and more. So what we are doing with Germany now is, as Karsten mentioned, we are buying exactly the same submarines. They are not the same producer. They are not the same model. They are exactly the same. And we follow that up in detail. It gives you so much advantage when it comes to maintenance, logistics, life cycle costs. And we have done it with the F-35 from Lockheed Martin. It's exactly the same platform. So when you do that in large scale, it gets cheaper, and you also are better able to operate together.
Why is it still such a big problem? Admiral?
Well, I think for every country, there's a concern about preserving their industrial base and the jobs that are associated with that. And so where you can find opportunities to cooperate and procure together, then you can do that. But in many cases, you won't have that overlap.
Money is clearly another obstacle. Oh, you wanted to chime in? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can add on that. I think it's very important that we keep competition in industry. So we should not be, have this go back to the Cold War where we had large state-owned companies that produced everything. We need that competition. We need competition across the Atlantic. So we should be careful to standardize so much that we stop innovation.
Yeah, and create.
And it's not only about money. This is one point you mentioned. The other thing is it's about innovation. So competition also helps for innovation.
Yes. Admiral, I want to ask you how much money Brazil spends on innovation and on military as opposed to these guys.
Yes. Well, I'm very disappointed here. You see, defense is not in the forefront of politics in Brazil, in this political discussion, not even in the backseat for many, many years. And since you were talking about 2% or maybe more, I don't know, I'm not talking about it now, of the GDP. Brazil now spends, last year, spent 1.1% and going down. That's the result of a lack of discussion and a lack of interest. And this has many consequences. One of them is you have less money to spend, or even on survival of the armed forces, even though to innovation. So the companies they must rely in export in order to survive, and that's the first point. The second point is when you have less money, you are much less inclined to bet on the wrong horse. It's very difficult to make wrong choices when you are invested in technology, and that's the second effect on the environment of the innovation and all the startups and all the companies in Brazil. And recently, actually yesterday, there was an announcement that a new axis on a new industrial policy in Brazil, axis number 6, it was the defense industry axis. That's a huge difference, because it's the first time defense industry was part of the whole industrial policy in Brazil. Maybe, and it was announced about $12 billion in investments for the next years. So maybe it's one stepping stone for moving forward, especially when it's about innovation.
Before we leave this subject of country-to-country innovation, I'm wondering if this particular moment makes it even more important to turbocharge innovation within your countries. General?
Well, the particular moment is of course it's a special moment, but has there really be a change in the respect you are talking about within the last or between last week and today? So we are seeing a threat, a direct threat, and this is a driver for all innovation. This is a driver of procuring more. This is a driver for getting higher defense budgets. So it's an effect behind this, but it's not about yesterday or today.
Yeah, I think it's we are facing a situation where we are all investing more in defense. We are all getting more money, all nations in NATO. At the same time, we are all supporting Ukraine. At the same time, we are also all refilling our stocks from equipment and ammunition and spare parts we have donated to Ukraine. So we have these three demands on industry, and we are investing more in Ukrainian industry. But also, when you look at the increased defense spending, we need to find new solutions to achieve the same effects that we used platforms to achieve in yesterday's defense. So we need to, based on experience from Ukraine and innovation, we need to develop a new defense for tomorrow. And then we need much more innovation.
We do have some audience questions. I'd love to bring some of them in here. What about, Anonymous asks, what about hiring and promoting more young people with innovative skills and insights who are truly willing to disrupt the status quo and the military bureaucracy? Are each of you trying to do that? Admiral?
All the time. You need two sets of people. You need young people with bright ideas, new ideas. I think of them as the vertical part of an organization, and they need some experienced people who know how the whole system fits together. And they need to partner together to make that fit, to make a nice team.
Do you have a hard time recruiting them when there's the lure of Silicon Valley?
That actually attracts more young people. They recognize the world's a dangerous place right now, and we need to stay out in front with our advantages.
That we are doing this is exactly the reason why I'm sitting here. I mean, Cyber Innovation Hub is a typical example for this. On a small basis, we have to do more on this. But if you look especially into cyber, I would guess that it's a good test bed, and it's a good attractor for a lot of young people coming towards the forces.
So we see the same in Norway now. We don't have a recruitment problem at all. We are recruiting very well. But to keep all these bright people in the armed forces for as long as we can is actually more challenge because they are very attractive young people and also for industry, which is also good in some way. But I think we as leaders, we are not a generation to solve these innovation problems or the new technology. We have to be better at describing the problem, and we are trained to find solutions. But the solution is not in our heads; it's in the young military technologically skilled people's heads. Yeah.
Let me take another audience question. How does NATO secure interoperability and international cooperation in AI while certain focus points of the national constitutions of the allies vary? You stumped them.
It's true that there is a lot of obstacles that we need to get over and get past. So we need to challenge regulations and also the way we have done things in the past all the time. We have seen that now with Finland and Sweden joining NATO and all the Nordic countries being in the same alliance. We still have barriers. Even in our regulations and laws that we need to challenge all the time. And then we have to be very clear that this has to be improved to make us more relevant, basically.
I think we have to take two different perspectives on this. One is the regulation, which is necessary out of ethical reasons or whatsoever in AI. But the other perspective is, what will my possible adversary do? So if he is also going with my regulations, all is fine. If not, then we have the same perspective on it, like we had, or the same development on it, like we had on drones, looking at it or having it over the last 10 years. So the discussion on drones definitely showed that this approach is an approach which is not going into the right direction, and we have to learn out of this for the regulation of AI, with this two perspective I mentioned.
A question I'd like to direct at both of the admirals. This is from Michael Merkel, who asks, while the discussion is mainly around AI and software, how important is innovation in hardware for you currently?
Yeah, that's an essential part of what we do. A lot of the innovation that we have done in this war at sea and the Black Sea has been with unmanned surface vehicles. And then there's been a tremendous development curve on that in improving the hardware to be able to fight in that environment. And it's paired with the software, of course, to enable it. So they go hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure. Naval systems were for a long time dependent on hardware and a strong software to work together. And we cannot find solutions without both being robust. And that's a main point, that they always work together. And it doesn't make sense to have a hardware with a failed software that you can enter that and disable everything. And the same thing that it doesn't make sense to have a strong software without having able to capture all the potential of both and bring together a solution for a military problem.
As you say, for your questioner, we run a pretty good shop where we are with the hardware.
Somebody did ask me, because they knew I was going to have the two of you on the panel, do we really need these big ships anymore?
Oh, we do. Next question.
No, here's the logic. The unmanned vehicles work in a fairly specific set of circumstances. Limited areas that are constrained where they're reachable from the shore, and with an adversary that behaves in a certain way. On the flip side, if you want to be a global power, you have to have a global navy, and you have to have a robust enough platform that it can go across the ocean and take on a multiple set of missions and carry out your nation's interests. So there's very much a need for the traditional Navy. All this unmanned activity is like new tools in the kit. It'll enhance what we already have.
We've been talking a lot about the positives of innovation and how much it can give you. Are you also scared about the vulnerabilities that it creates?
Probably not scared, but aware of those vulnerabilities, and we have to deal with those vulnerabilities like we do it in the private sector, or like we have to do it in the private sector as well. So when we are talking about resilience, it's all about that, to make yourself able to conduct what you have to do. In our case, operations, also in a contested environment.
I would just add, we have to take risk. So if you don't take this risk, we're actually taking a higher risk. So if you don't take the risk and develop new systems, we're taking a much higher risk by keeping the old systems alive.
One of our audience members asked, is AI inherently too risky to rely on for substantial defense decisions due to the black box problem?
Can you say it again?
Should we be letting AI make substantial defense decisions, given that it's a black box? You don't really know what's happening in there.
Yeah, we have to, of course, we have to have the human in the loop in some way or the other. But we also have to remember that the human in the loop is also a risk. So you have to give artificial intelligence, you have to trust that you put in the right algorithms and you get the answers you want. Or you are looking for, but you also have to be aware of the risk that if you have a human in the loop, probably the human will make more mistakes than the machine in some situations.
The modern battlefield, with its complexity, it asks for reducing this complexity, and this is what AI is for me. It's reducing the complexity in order to make it possible that I can take decisions. So it's not AI taking decisions, it's AI preparing me for taking the decisions.
I've been here at Innovation Night for several years, and I hear a lot of the same themes year after year after year. It has to do with procurement, it has to do with funding, it has to do with talent. My final question for each of you is, how do we actually make change? What has to happen for innovation and partnership in innovation to work even better than it does right now? Admiral, why don't I start with you down there?
Two things. One is that you have to have the ingredients of the right people. And you need 4 folks there all times. You need the operator who knows what needs to be done and how it will be applied. You need the engineer who can make the changes on the spot to adapt it to what the operator needs. You need the financier to be there to make a judgment on the spot to keep the funds flowing. And then you need the all-domain integrator who operates at a higher level and can tell you how this thing is going to fit in to the bigger picture. That's all necessary. But one more, if I may. The other thing that often does not go well is that people are innovating to a specific point that they see what they need right now. They need to be anticipatory and think about when this thing lands in the future, it needs to be ahead of their competition. And that is often missing, that ability to plan ahead with a conveyor belt that's always delivering new capabilities well into the future.
Admiral Frady, your thoughts?
Yes, well, I couldn't agree more with Admiral. What I could add 2 more ingredients. First is something to drive. For example, you mentioned Ukraine, how fast the innovation, because survival is a huge motivator. So you need motivation, and you need to find the right motivation to have the innovation going on. And another one is when you already talked about how you can work together with other countries and countries that have differences, different structures. Another very important ingredient is trust, especially among different actors and different people that can and must work together in the future.
To add something, we need to remove all old regulations and the way we have done things before. We have taken away 50% of our regulations in the Norwegian Defence Forces the last 4 years, but we have just started. You know, it's so many regulations and documents written that we need to get rid of them. We need a more diverse force. So we have to work very hard now on all kinds of regulations we have for how we recruit people. We need a much more diverse force to face the future.
General, last word?
Taking all those points together and agreeing to all of them, it's for me it's M&M. And M&M means mindset and money, and it's not about peanuts. And I think this will be the way.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for your insights today. This has been terrific. Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. So I think we've heard some common themes today. We need to do more, and we need to do it faster, and we need to cooperate to get it done. There are some great technologies. You saw them showcased here today, but let's not just look at presentations. Let's purchase them, let's deploy them, let's get them out in the field. Corinna?
Jean, you have perfectly summed up this evening. I would say a lot of what we saw today makes me truly hopeful that we can win the race and tackle the problems we are facing, but we are not there yet. We definitely have to get faster, but no pressure for tonight. For now, let me thank you. Thanks to all our great speakers, panelists, startup representatives and innovators. Thanks for contributing to making our countries safer.
Thank you. Good night.
And thanks, of course, to the Munich Security Conference and Benedict. I think he's gone, but thanks for making this evening possible. And last but not least, of course, thanks to the Cyber Innovation Hub, which is behind this evening. Thank you for organizing. Sven, that is your applause. And of course, thank you. Thanks to our wonderful audience here in this hall, but also online. Hopefully see you next year here again. And for now, enjoy the rest of your evening and enjoy this year's Munich Security Conference.